Sure. For anybody that's new, Russ, MSP specialist here on the MSP team. Generally, Jeremy's leading these. He's actually at a conference right now. Actually, I think he's transiting between a conference and home right now. So that's why we're lacking Jeremy's presence today. But with me, I have Chris, our SE, and we have a new face. We have Blake. He is an SDR on the team. Anybody who has recently started an NFR has probably heard Blake lately in the last month or two. But yeah, Blake, if you want to do a little bit of an intro.
I'm looking at the attendees list right now, and I've talked to probably about half of you guys. So yeah, kind of any inbound activity you guys or interactions you have with Blumira. A lot of the times I'll send over some emails or check in with you over the phone, see if there's any immediate questions that I can answer. If not, you're going straight over to Chris and Russ, where they will get you taken care of. They've got a bit more experience than I do, but I've been in the SIM space for over 2 years now, and at Blumira for, I guess, over a month now. So still learning the product, and but however, I'm still able to answer a good bit of questions. So thank you guys.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, anybody new is going to end up funneling through Blake usually, and then yeah, then the communications will probably be through me or Chris or Jeremy, whoever it is. But actually, I'm going to hand over to Chris to kind of go over. We want to dive into kind of some product updates. And then after that, we're going to go into a little bit of like an essay intro. For anybody who has had an essay intro, basically it's, us going over an intro to your essay as well as kind of an onboarding of your environments and those types of things. So we're going to do a bit of a role play back and forth with Chris and Dave here.
Yeah, so that's the other person on the call, of course, Dave. Some of you talked to Dave already. But yeah, we'll get more into talking about the solutions architect role here in a little bit. Let me get my screen share up here and let's hop into some stuff. If anybody has questions, of course, you can use the question and answer function. That's ideal, but whatever button you happen to hit there, we'll make sure we can get to you there anyways. All right, there we go. I think that's the right screen. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna hop into it here. New feature this week is executive summaries. So this has been something that's been coming up for a few months now. We've been asking some of you for input about it. This is now available. So we'll start here. So executive summaries is going to be a way for you to get an ongoing display of value to your customers. Executive summaries is going to be available to use an MSP, not only on the paid editions, as well as for your free accounts as well. So if you've got customers on free SIM, you should be able to have access to those on all those editions. So that is, I'll go through the details here, but this is a feature that's been often requested and going to be a great way for you to have these reports in hand to show your customers, show them that Blumira is working for them, that it's an investment in their security. Use those in your QBRs or other updates with your customers. So where executive summaries is going to be found in the product is going to be a new tab here under reporting. You're going to access that tab, and that's going to give you the settings to set up summaries. Now, this is an opt-in feature. Again, this is an opt-in feature. This is not being turned on for you or your customer accounts until you go and turn it on. This is a per account feature, so you do need to go and turn it on for each account that you want it turned on for. And then you're going to need to go in and configure some more things to ensure that the reports are being sent to the right places. I'm just going to hop into the product here. It's going to make more sense for me, I think. So first off, you're going to need to decide where you want these reports to go to. My recommendation, skip these role-based settings here. Pick an address. Maybe you've got an address that your sales team uses or your TAM team or whatever you have internally uses, or put a ticketing email address in here. I would not recommend bulk sending these to admin or responder roles. That's going to result with a lot of people getting the same email and probably confusion over who's handling it, that sort of thing. So my recommendation is figure out a email address, distribution group maybe at your company that you want these reports to go to. Put that email address in there and hit save. And then every month, those reports are going to get sent out to that email address. It's going to make it real easy for you to digest those, process those, and hand those out to customers as you see fit and works for you. next section here, these are going to be previous summaries. So this is going to be where you can access previous month summaries. Now, executive summaries are going to run for the first time in November. So right now you're going to see nothing because the first run of these is going to be at the beginning of November for the month of October. So as time goes on, maybe you want to go back and access some old ones and don't want to dig through emails, or maybe this email address you put in ended up being invalid. You want to find those. You can always find the old summaries in this. And I'll talk more in a minute about how this process is going to work in terms of sending out these reports and the scheduling and stuff like that. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So content settings here. So let me get a example here so you can just see what this is going to look like. I'm going to get just the actual PDF out here. I'll show that to you. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to bring in a PDF of the reports that we've been running for testing here and show you what this looks like. 4 sections in this report. Section number 1 is going to be how much data was analyzed. Then we're going to have how many security findings were generated, and then how many are determined to be threats. So you're going to have these sections up top here with kind of some summary, and then you're going to have more detailed information here. So this section number 1, how much data we analyzed, is going to have information about how many gigs or terabytes of data we have for that customer. Top types of devices that are sending logs. So you'll have things here like, you got AWS enabled Windows logs. You'll see some more information here about top data sources. This is going to look a bit different for your customers because they're not probably using things like AWS. So this will look a bit different, but same general idea. How many different types of sources, or how many different sources in total, how many Windows devices, how many 365 connectors, that sort of stuff there. So this first section here, this how much data was analyzed section, this is mandatory. You can't turn that section off. That's going to kind of be the base of the report, is that section. Next section is going to be how many findings were generated. So this is a section you can turn on and off. Of course, I recommend you turn it on. This is a great way to show that Blumira is detecting things, that things are being remediated and resolved, and the customer is becoming more secure. Really, in a production customer environment, you hope to see this bar chart be going downward over time because you're finding things, you're hardening the customer's environment, you are making them a more secure company. So of course, in our demo environment, we just bang away at it all the time. So you'll see breakdowns here in terms of things like the same way we classify detection rules, threats, suspects, risks. So you'll see that same information here about how how those were categorized. And then of course for threats, which is our most urgent type of detection rule, you'll see information about priority levels of the within that category. Last section here is going to be how many findings were resolved. You again can turn this off. We definitely encourage MSPs that use Blumira to go in each time you get a finding and resolve it. You can, of course, go in and follow all the steps for the workflows and, follow the steps and come to remediation there. If you know clearly that's a false positive, you can just close that finding without interacting with the workflow. But I would encourage you to use the findings to, work through them and resolve them. That way you've got valid data in this category. So you want to show your customers not only is Blumira working for the customer, but you're using Blumira, to serve your customer. So this is going to show you that you're, you're resolving the incidents. And then you're going to see some things down here in terms of the top types of findings that were triggered. So depending on the customer's environment, you might see a lot of a certain type. You might see a mix. You might see not much of that customer's environment doesn't get a lot of detection rule triggers. So that's what the reports are going to look like. This is going to come both in an email, or I'm sorry, in a PDF, and I'll pop the email out here. You'll get this as an email as well. Where is this? Pop it out here. There we go. So you'll get this as an attached PDF, and of course you'll also get that report, kind of a summary report version of that as an email. So you'll see some of that up front if you want to forward that to your customer. They get some good information before they even open the PDF. So The last thing in the configuration settings here is logo. So you can put a custom logo in here if you want. By default, it's going to come with the Blumira branding on it, but you can put a custom logo in there. Where does that logo actually go on? So in the summary page. Interesting, I don't see that on there. I'll check on that. Maybe that this is still kind of be under release right now, so I'm not sure why that logo is not showing up there. But in general, that logo should show up, as well as this description right here. Oh, sorry, that logo is a footer logo, so that's why it's going to show it on there. That's right. And then you'll have the summary page description. We do have by default a description that goes in here. If you have a security product that Blumira is bundled into, maybe you want to put a custom description here that will say something like, as a part of your investment in our, MSP, security branding, whatever. You can put your own message in there if you want, or you can use our default message in there as well. So that is how that's generally going to work. Let's see. So we got that. So these are going to run monthly as well as quarterly updates as well. So you'll have this, of course, running around the first of every month, and then every quarter you should be getting a quarterly summary as well. So that might help for customers who get less often QBRs. One of the things to keep in mind about running, these reports are going to be generated on the first of the month. In order for us to email these reports out to a large number of users, those email sends are going to run over a 24 hour to 3 day period. We're going to tighten that up as time goes on, but we're trying to make sure we don't end up with some space here where we're blasting out a large amount of data to a large amount of people and getting ourselves targeted for spam lists and that kind of stuff. So the reports should be available in the product on the first, but you may see that they get emailed out over a day or two. So you're always welcome to go in and check in on it right on the first, but you may see a slight delay. We're going to try and tighten up those email sends as time goes on, but just be aware that's kind of how that's going to work there. Okay. I think I got everything there. Okay, so documentation is also live for executive summaries. So that's going to be in our KB site. You can just go to your page here and hop over into the support page. Let's see any questions so far here, so I can keep going through here. So again, all the documentation you need to know is going to be there. And then the other thing that we have for MSPs that you might be able to use to help, help this tool, empower you to sell more. We have a sales enablement PDF. So this is going to be, let's go to that. Okay. So this is going to be a tool that you can use to talk about, how, Blumira can be used to provide reporting to your customers. Maybe you're going to use this to show your customers about, what kind of reporting they can expect to get. Maybe you want to use this to train your sales teams, but this is going to be available in the partner kit, which you guys should all have access to already. It's just blumira.com/partner-kit. It is down here under, I know I just saw it here. Executive summaries right there. So that's available for you as well in there. Russ just dropped that link in the chat. So if you want to grab that link, there's a lot of good PDFs and resources in here for you to use in terms of marketing and selling Blumira, training your sales teams, all that good stuff. Any questions? Anybody want to think anything in chat? Anybody want me to raise them up to talk to us about executive summaries? Any questions that you might have about that? Cool. So again, this is something that a lot of MSPs have been asking for. We made this a priority to develop this and bring this to you because we knew that this was important to you to be able to not only sell Blumira, but to have retention on your product sales over time. So please send us any feedback that you have on this. You can send us feedback really any way that you can contact us, including just tap that help button, hit that support button on the bottom of the page there, and send us notes on executive summaries. Any way that you can send us any feedback. It's very appreciated. This is, I believe, something that we're going to try and maintain and adapt over time. So we want to make sure that, you know, what you want to see in there is being heard, and we can use that feedback as time goes on. So, okay, so some other new features that are in the product that you may not be aware of yet. New feature that launched last month was notification for MSPs when one of your customer accounts has run out of agents. So this is kind of an important feature to have to use, because you know, if you're deploying agents for a customer, which we hope that you are, we want you to know when you're running out of agents. So when you've hit this mark, I'll over here and show you how that would really work. So in my demo account, I've got 15 agents allocated, and I'm deployed 2 right now. If I were to deploy 15 agents, I would hit that 15 out of 15, and I couldn't deploy any more agents. This is another one of those opt-in things that I want you to be aware about. This maximum deployable agents reached or exceeded. I would recommend that you have at least one person in your account, in your organization, have that alert enabled, so they know if you have an account that's run out of agents. Maybe for, you know, costing reasons, you want to set a hard cap on how many agents a customer is using. However, you likely want to make sure that if you're deploying an agent, that it gets deployed, even if that brings you over, you know, costing estimates, because, you know, you don't want to be blind to logs from an endpoint. So just a little bit review on how agent pricing generally is going to work. We're going to bill you based on how many agents you're using. So having extra agents allocated to any of your customer accounts isn't going to really hurt them, because that's just going to give you that overhead. So if you have a case where you need extra agents, make sure you have those available, because if you're hitting that limit and this is triggering and you're getting alerts, that means that if you deployed one more agent, it's not going to check into the portal. So I would recommend, you know, if you're using a ticketing account, you got one of your ticketing or PSA email account in here, you can always go into that user. Let's say Blake is our ticketing account. You can go in there, edit notifications, and you can turn on, you know, that agent alerting right there. So if you have questions about that, you know, hit us up now or let us know later, or talk to support about it. But definitely make sure that you're enabling that for at least one user that has access to all your accounts, because that's going to make sure, you know, you're hitting that agent cap. Now that cap is going to, that alert is going to re-trigger once an hour, just kind of the way that our alerting works in that case. If you come into a case where you need more agents in one of your accounts, anything other than your NFR account, you're going to be able to go in here, hit that add agents, and that's going to just add more agents allocated to that account. If you have more questions about things like how this impacts your billing or anything like that, I'd recommend just, you know, shooting an email to our team, msp@blumira.com, or of course you can talk to your solutions architect and they can help you out as well. But we want you to make sure you know when you run out of agents, and we want you to be able to, you know, add enough agents to use for your account so you can get full coverage on all their Windows endpoints. Any questions on that feature at all? Any questions on how agent deployments work and agent caps work? How to add more agent allocation to any of your customer accounts? Anything along those lines? No? Okay. Super cool. Let's see. I think I got 2 more things in here on. Okay. 2 new detection rules. We deploy and maintain a lot of detection rules. These are 2 kind of notable new detection rules. This new rule, this is going to be a new type of impossible travel. So previously we were detecting impossible travel based on Microsoft's analysis of login logs. This is based on our own analysis. So this is going to calculate the geographic distance between IP addresses and use that to then detect if a user may be traveling in an impossible manner. So this is something that is pushed out. I believe this is on paid accounts. So this is going to be pushed out to all your paid accounts and is going to be available for you to you know, see if you're having this impossible travel activity on your users. This of course is eligible for detection filters, so you can tune that if you need to you know, eliminate known user travel, that sort of thing. Other new rule of note, a new rule around use of Screen Connect. So this is something that we had some requests for around possibly detecting Screen Connect and abuse of Screen Connect, particularly using the remote power or the remote code execution tool in Screen Connect. So this is something else that you may want to disable if you are using Screen Connect or if you use these features. But that's another kind of notable new rule out there that we deployed recently. Let's see, Cody had a question. Who's the best person to talk to regarding notifications, alerting for various accounts? So it seems like only one way to set up a notification preferences per the account. Yeah. So so if you've got a solutions architect, Cody, the best person to talk to would be to talk to them about how to set that up best to work for you. We do also have some Dave just put a thing in chat there. Thanks, Dave. So KB article in there if you want to look more about how alerting works and notifications work for Blumira. And then Chris about Screen Connect, filtering out pre-Screen Connect instances. Yeah, Chris. So I don't have an example of that rule triggering, but yeah, you should be able to use these detection filters to filter out your approved Screen Connect instance. I think there may be some identifiers in when Screen Connect shows up in the logs to do that. If you have a case where it triggers, definitely reach out to myself, support, or solutions architect, and we can check it out and help you find a way to make a filter for that. Okay. Any other questions on these? Any other feature questions? Any questions about anything completely unrelated to what I talked to just now? Cool. So that kind of brings us to the next thing that we were going to do today, which is we were going to kind of talk with Dave about the onboarding experience. So a lot of you have taken advantage, if you're a paying customer, of using your solutions architect. Some of you have not. We would like to make sure that everybody who is a paying Blumira customer does have access to their SA and is using them for technical help, onboarding assistance, that sort of thing. They're a great value. These are included in your cost that you're paying Blumira. So using Dave or Justin is not something you need to pay extra for. They're a great resource to help you with anything in terms of how do I use Blumira to do this? How do I deploy in this scenario? So we thought what we kind of would do today is have Dave walk through kind of the onboarding experience, and I'll pretend to be a competent MSP, and we can kind of work through some of the question and answer that usually goes on. You can kind of see what this service would look like if you wanted to engage with your SA and get that kind of help for you and your customers. So Dave, you want to kind of kick things off and let us know usually where you start, or do you want to intro? Why don't you intro what you guys usually do and how what you provide for customers usually works.
Yeah. So generally, you'll probably come to us either through Russ or Chris. Nice handoff just to kind of make the initial introductions, get the meeting scheduled. The first onboarding calls, I generally like to go through a light amount of discovery work. I'm sure every single one of you are familiar with that process. I encounter very few MSPs that don't have established discovery processes already. But we use a similar premise. We want to know what's important to you, what's in your environment, what's in your customers' environments. I do a lot of direct business-to-business onboarding as well here at Blumira. So there are some interesting differences between when working with MSPs. One of them being is I am here absolutely to be on your initial calls. If you want an onboarding kickoff call with your first paying customer, and you don't want to be caught off guard by any oddball questions where you might not be familiar with the answer yet, Blumira is new to you. I want to make sure that you've got some assistance on that initial call to make sure that everything's moving well. Questions get answered, customers are taken care of. So not only our MSP or our partners, but your customers as well. One of the things I think is very important when it comes to discovery is to uncover where those gaps are. Does a customer have a good blend of tool set? Again, a lot of MSPs are different. We've got some that are fully managed. They have the service catalog. They move into a customer environment. and they implement their solution. You might have a customer that has say you don't deal in Palo Altos, but they just purchased one. There's generally some flexibility there. But it's really important to make sure that the technology stack that you're leveraging at a customer is in line with the services that we're offering. Just to make sure that you have that good blend of services. You've got broad coverage, and you're also integrated with us for proper notifications and threat detection. So that all boils down to just that general discovery process. I personally like to go through in like a logical discovery order where let's determine what's out in your cloud services. Are you an Azure customer? Are you an AWS customer? And then kind of move things back from there. What's your edge network infrastructure look like? What are your internal or cloud service leveraged host OSs in use? Do you have Linux, Mac OS? I like to find out what sort of EDR tooling we're working with. It's another checkbox on those integrations, but there's always going to be miscellaneous integrations that are out there, and that's whether it's a customer's PSA, their RMM tooling. I like to keep track of that information, so if we do have some nuances come up, I can effectively communicate with customers. Interesting one would be PDQ deploy, if you've ever used that. There have been some nuances deploying our agent out there, and there is some simple workarounds. Just create a multi-step deployment instead of using the single script, and you can get it to go properly. So that's one of the things that I am here for, is to make sure that you're aware of our nuances, best practices around how to leverage our services. There's a lot of topics that come up about best practices. Best practices do generally evolve over time based off of what we have for detection rules as well. So it's very important to make sure that you're getting all those details taken care of. And then as I work with customers, I like to do check-ins. I like to make sure that nothing's changing in their environment, or if there had been something changing in their environment throughout the year, that we're also internally here at USA is keeping track of that. So again, just if anything comes up, CVEs, and we want to notify customers, new 0 days, things like that. You've probably seen some emails from us in the past for the utmost important ones, or updates for our own product. I did a recent blast about the executive summaries, so you may have seen those emails from me yesterday as well. Outside of that, it is general product training. I've been working with SIMs for quite some time. Kind of got a long career of where everything had just had like the security aspect, and then there was a lot of need to just say mid 2000s, there weren't great options out there. So there's a lot of DIY solutions that ended up coming out of that. So I've been through that pain. I understand MSPs probably felt that pain as well. Standing up an elk stack, try to maintain that. How much of your staff is actually caring and feeding for that, and then writing your own detection rules. I think that's where we really strive, is to make sure that we've offloaded all that effort, that time-consuming process of keeping those running, and at the end of the day, just providing a lot of value to customers.
Very cool. Where do you usually so let's say I'm an MSP and I've got my first customer. Where does it usually start with you in terms of how do we get started to get that customer onboarded the right way? So obviously you want to know some information about that customer's product stack. Ideally, that customer is using a common stack that MSP uses for all their customers, right? So basically, you want to inventory those products first, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you do want to bring me on during that first call, I'm not saying you have to. Some customers prefer to keep a gap between their sub accounts and the service provider that they're offering their service catalog through. But having that discovery information up front is certainly going to make the call go smoother. If that gives me an opportunity to get you documentation back, if you are a first-time Blumira user, to make sure that you've got the information that you're going to need to support your customers, whether that's how to build a Blumira sensor, or how to pull in, say, carbon black logs, for example. Where does that integration reside? We've got several different ways we can actually pull data in, pull logs in. Knowing how to get those is key. On those first calls too, I like to take the approach of the lowest hanging fruit or the quickest integration. Let's get those taken care of first. As MSPs, you might be able to do those ahead of calls. So when you first get onto the onboarding call with a customer, you can show them that, hey, we've already pulled in 700,000 logs from your 365 environment, or here's your firewall logs. We've already got them forwarding over to the sensor.
Yeah, and some of those things, the MSP ideally should have some experience, at least with the, integrating the common ones like 365, because hopefully in their NFR, they got some experience to do that already. And yeah, some things like, deploying a sensor probably makes sense for them to do on their own time, because it is pretty easy. And, it's not probably something there's a good use of time always on a phone call to walk through that process, right?
Yeah, it usually boils down to whether it's a fully managed or co-managed environment, and that range is pretty broad across all of our customers, all of our partners.
Okay. Do you find often that the MSPs you're working with, are they doing an onboarding with the customer like visible as well, or are they kind of handling the whole thing on their, on their side, not visible to the customer?
I'll be honest with you. A lot of times, MSPs, by the time I'll say, reach my desk, Russ and yourself have been fantastic to work with in that regard. Where usually an MSP will get over to me, and I'm like, hey, there's already 5 sub accounts in here. I mean, maybe 4 frees and 1 primary, 1 paying customer in there. So by the time we sync up, they've had enough time in the product. There's a lot of questions. And it's a lot of the right questions to be asking too. I tend to find if you hop on a call first time you're looking at the product, there are very few questions. It's just say like new product overload. You don't know what to ask at that time.
Yeah. If you find like in cases like that where they've really done, a lot up front to get things onboarded, are you able to just help them like double check? Are there things that you'd usually look at to check and see if things are, set up and running properly? What kind of things would you looking at there?
100%. And that's where a lot of the best practices come into play. So there's usually 3 key things that I like to focus on when it comes to Windows environments or Active Directory. If Active Directory is in use, 1, have you run our Blumira script? Our detection rules for Kerber roasting and ASREP roasting absolutely require very specific honey credentials, honey tokens being in the domain. So if it's a single forest multi-domain, you will need to run that script for each individual domain to stub in those honey tokens. Another common one that I look out for is IIS logging. By default, we're going to grab the IIS config logs. Those come through the Windows Event Tracing subsystem automatically. The access logs into each individual site, though, are not configured for logging through Windows Event Tracing. So making sure that you're configuring per site is generally what I suggest. You can change it at a server level. The reason I go per site is because I never know how many developers are working on an IIS system or on that particular web server, whether or not they need the flat file logs. From my experience working with web developers in, I would say, the Microsoft land in prior experience, they are a fan of the flat file logs. So, additionally, it's better for us to grab those through event tracing, simply because you can move that folder anywhere. So it doesn't always have to be C:// inetpub. And it can be kind of a pain to try to track down all those paths and keep that managed. So going in and configuring the IIS logging is super important. The last one that I would touch on is our Blumira GPO policy. We have quite a few detection rules that rely on that policy being in place, or at least a replication of those settings. You can always tune those. I assume you know your customers' environments better than I'll ever know them. We can chat about it, and at the end of the day, you're still probably going to know it better. So if there's nuances in there, such as like we're extremely tight on disk space, one of the things we do change in our Blumira GPO is the local security log. Default, it's minuscule space. You can roll that over real quick. We do make that change up to 2 gig, but that's something that you can, just import the GPO, change the setting on that if it's too much for some of your clients.
And so that's a rolling 2 gig history that it holds in there, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And the reason we make that change is in case you need to do local DFIR work. that you've got a lengthy enough paper trail looking at the security logs there that you've got some information to work from. They're default 16 meg that can go quick.
Yeah. Okay. I just put a link in the chat here to both the Honey token and the GPO. That GPO is something that I do push a lot too. We can talk more about that, but as Dave said, yeah, there's a lot of good Windows log types that are not enabled by default. We do give you a GPO. Really, any SIM that you use should be giving you a GPO to turn on those additional log types. So that's something that we recommend that you use. Dave, do you have any? Can you talk more about what recommendations you might have if somebody isn't using Active Directory?
Well, if you're using Azure AD only, you're using Intune, you can still import that in and deploy it out via Intune. So that's a real important note to make there. If you're talking different IAM solutions such as Okta, we do have a separate integration for Okta, and it's, you're kind of stuck. If you're not using Intune and you're not using AD and you're using a third-party IAM or third-party to Microsoft anyway, you're going to have to go create your own local registry settings to improve those, or local security policy to change the registry settings to actually capture those audit logs. So it is just one of those niceties we've had for the last 25 years in Windows land, the ability to manage systems in bulk.
Yeah, yeah. I've used that they mentioned that, that Intune tool. I think it's called Group Policy Analytics to deploy GPOs. I've used it. It's not a direct replacement for Group Policy. It's pretty close, but yeah, we've gotten so used to having Active Directory and Group Policy Manager that, yeah, it's kind of tough when we have these new cloud-based environments to have an adaptation there.
Or come back from vacation recently and find out there is no more Azure Active Directory.
Yep. Okay. What other, let's see. Okay. So we talked about, common things you're looking at in deployed environments. Oh, what else? Any other, common topics that, you want our MSPs to be aware of in terms of, what you guys help with, common mistakes and problems that you see that, maybe they should know about to avoid, before it starts?
Mistakes are generally, that I'll come across, are either, I guess one of the common ones I would see is copying security IDs or security IDs or OIDs instead of the values when you're setting up integrations. It's just super, super common.
And that's for 365 typically that you're talking about there, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Most of them I would say are more related to troubleshooting techniques. Again, our platform might be new to you. Do you know where to go to find out whether or not a sensor module integration is actually working? You can look at the logging devices table, but if you take something like CrowdStrike, for example, we're not going to see logs show up there unless you had an event. If you didn't have an event, how do you validate whether or not that's working? So that's some of the stuff that I like to cover. Make sure they know, customers know exactly which reports to look at, which data sources to query, and how to zone in on that data, how to interpret that data as well. Because we do pull a lot of telemetry out of our integrations, and knowing how to use that for troubleshooting purposes is super, super helpful.
Okay. For customers that maybe are using your services, but they've got their sub accounts fully established and up and running, is there anything on an ongoing basis that they maybe should be talking to you about? Or obviously you said you send out notifications and communications sometimes. Is there anything more they should be talking to you about on a regular basis in terms of any more services that you can help them with or anything?
If I could be kept in the loop on potential future changes, that's always a good thing. I do like to work with our product team closely, our development teams closely, and if we have an opportunity to try to get ahead of the game, for example, our pfSense integration. We had some lengthy conversations with some of our partners ahead of that coming out, and shortly after we onboarded some of those customers, that integration was available. That's not always the case. I'll set some expectations here. If you've got obscure piece of software A and you're the only customer using it, that's probably going to go into a feature request list and we'll track it. But we do really drive our development here based off of customer need, customer requests. Where can we make the largest impact across the board for all customers? So it's important to call out. But custom roles. If you haven't talked about that in the past, that is something that we can do for customers. We've got dedicated dev sprints for that.
Yeah.
But having those conversations, I think, is important. You can absolutely go directly to our support team once you're onboarded and have those conversations. But I like to kind of pick the customer's brain. Hey, if you want this custom detection, if you saw this in your environment today, what do you do for remediation? That gives us a sensible idea of how should we build this playbook out? How should we build the workflow out? Make it work properly for the customer. Make it be efficient as well.
Okay.
So there's, anytime there's custom detections, there's a lot of information that goes into it. So sometimes the conversation is warranted.
Okay. Yeah, and that's I think that's something that we've talked about in a while. But yeah, for paying customers, we can support custom detection rules if that's something that's needed for use cases. Obviously, we want to make sure those custom detection rules have security value and they're not going to be something that's going to overwhelm you or overwhelm our alerting infrastructure. So if that comes up, obviously, I think that's probably the best place to start is talking to your SA about what you need in a detection rule you're not seeing right now. Maybe we have one that can be modified for your use case. So try and identify the best way to get to where you're looking to look for there. So,
and so sometimes we'll find out we already have something in place. One of the ones that I'll hear a lot about is like, hey, we'd like some visibility into logging in authentications into this other third-party service that we don't see on your integration list. And if they are using OAuth or something to that nature via M365, you can pretty much tell your customer you're already covered in that regard. We've got those authentication logs. So I think having those conversations is pretty important. So you're not left wondering if, like, hey, is this just a feature request? I'd really like this thing. Sometimes we can just either asynchronously or synchronously connect up, and hopefully at the end of the day, I can tell you exactly where that exists in the product and that you can use it today.
Yeah. Okay. I had a question in here from Cody about anything that works for alerting templates or exclusion templates. We find that we're creating new paid tenants where agents are used. We're creating a few new exclusions in every environment, and we can only do it after detection is generated. So basically, we have detection filters we need in every environment, and we can't do them until they're finding triggers. So, or ways to enable disable rules about across our entire client base. So, yeah, nothing you can do with that right now. I don't know if Dave, you know anything more about anything that's on the roadmap there or not for managing that kind of stuff.
Nothing today, but I can say I put that feature request in for another MSP yesterday. So if you haven't reached out to our support team, certainly let them know that that's important to you, Cody.
Okay. Yeah. Again, we take feature requests and feedback from our both our customers and our MSPs that are still evaluating us really seriously. We want to know what you want to see out of Blumira. So if there's anything at all that you want us to do differently, definitely let our support team know on that. They do spend fairly and correctly a lot of time discussing and logging those kind of feature requests to make sure we're collecting the direction that we should be going in. So looks like some other people here are now chiming in that they want to see that as well. So we'll just take some screenshots here and I'll make sure that we have notes in place for those people. So yes, definitely let us know if there's things like that you want to see, feature ads for. Yeah, right now there is no way to bulk add detection filters across all your customers, anything like that. But yeah, I can see a good use case for that. Especially with MSP tools, they're noisy in the exact same way in every environment.
That's, I guess, another point that I would make, or at least something I pride myself on here is being that customer advocate within our 4 virtual walls. This feedback is absolutely what I want to see, what I want to hear. If we're missing something, give me a shout. I'll certainly get it back over to the support team, and if I'm hearing about it all the time, they're certainly going to be hearing about it all the time as well on our internal teams.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else, Dave? I want to get some other questions here in a few minutes. Anything else, Dave, that you want to talk about? In terms of what we should know about SAs.
Just That we are here for you. You're not alone in this. You've got our SecOps team, and they're there to help for the security, the specific security issues. I highly suggest you continue to lean into them. They are an extension of your teams. I defer back over to our SecOps team as well. Like everybody's got their niche. They're really excellent at what they do. I would say I'm more on the side of I've been doing system administration, network administration, worked for VARs back when they were still called VARs, storage administration. So I've been across the board, the tiers. So I know where a lot of those pain points are, and I just want to make sure at the end of the day that things are configured properly. We're improving customer security posture. We're here to assist you to improve your customer security posture. That could just be having some conversations about new topics that come out. Hey, there's a new CVE out. Customers are asking me about this. Are we protected? Does Blumira have a detection rule for this? That's a pretty common conversation, unfortunately, with the state of software nowadays out there. I don't want to point any fingers at a particular managed file transfer tool that was used recently. We had a lot of folks clamor about getting specific detections in place for that CVE. I think this is another area that Blumira shines. We've had a web shell by file write detection in place for 6 years now. When the Hafnium stuff was going on, the last 3 years, I'd say, that detection was there in place and was actively picking this stuff up. We did not need a specific CVE-based detection.
Yeah,
when that managed file transfer, yeah.
That's what I was going to talk about a lot is, hey, do you have coverage for whatever CVE? And like if that CVE results in like pop and shell, like writing, remote code execution in IAS or whatever, it doesn't matter what novel technique they find to abuse Exchange this month, because it's all the same. Like we see it all the same. So we get that really high level coverage in a lot of cases. So yeah, you sometimes you don't see in detection rules a listing for every CVE that we could possibly cover, because we can cover in some cases hundreds of them with a single rule. So that's again, it's a great way for them to to talk to you about those things and make sure that they know that they're they're already covered there, and that they're not waiting for us to crank out rules nonstop for that kind of stuff.
And that is the importance of those HTTP access logs or HTTPS access logs. So that's why that IIS config is so important.
Yeah. So, again, if you are paying Blumira MSP right now and you're not talking to your SA, as you can probably see today, you should be. If you're not sure who your SA is, just email msp@blumira.com. I don't know if you guys have a preference for them to like hit you and find out who to talk to. Otherwise, they can just hit us up and we'll direct them in the right place. But yeah, msp@blumira.com for any questions about MSP program or who your SA is or whatever. Again, SAs are included in part of your paid service with Blumira, so that's something that you just have access to because you're paying us. We do assign those kind of at the point that the contract is signed. So we do attempt to make an introduction and get some meetings scheduled with you. I know some people are busy and it doesn't work out, but you're not missing out on anything if you skip those first meetings. You want to come back to the table, we can get you going whenever you're ready.
And my calendar is always open to all of my assignments. So we do dedicate particular SAs to a section of accounts. We round robin that here.
Okay.
So if my meeting scheduler is available to you, make use of it. If it's not today and it's not next week, there's going to be several weeks out that you can configure and get some time on the board so we can get some Q&A.
Yeah. Very cool, Dave. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to hit a few more things here. First off, I forgot. We released a Google Workspace Cloud Connector a few months ago, I want to say now. And we only released that for paid accounts at that time. We have now brought the Google Workspace connector to FreeSIM as well. So if you have customers on FreeSIM, you should now see, if you go to a free customer, you should now see that Google connector is not grayed out anymore. We're still calling it beta because we are still making sure that it's refined and working the best that it can. But you are now able to use that for your customers on FreeSim. I know that 365 is like the vast majority of things out there where you get customers in Google Workspace at all paid and free levels. Now that Workspace connector is available, you do not need to use a sensor module anymore for Google Workspace. So that is available to use. Please use that. Yeah, that is there. And then Cody asked, is a ConnectWise Manage integration in the works? I can tell you that we are planning to develop a ConnectWise Manage integration. I cannot tell you when it's going to be done. Can't tell you how exactly it's going to work yet. That is something that's going to be developed. It's going to take us some time to do it, but that's going to be ultimately something that is going to be available. Again, no timelines at this point, no promises on how it's going to work. Please continue to submit your feedback on how you use a integration for whatever PSA you use. It's very helpful to know what you want to see out of those integrations, so we know we build them in the right way. We have a very developed process in terms of planning these projects out and ensuring that we're scoping things the right way and putting the right features into them. So yeah, please submit your feedback on that so we know we're doing things the right way. But yes, that is something that's going to be coming. It'll be here when it gets here. That's all the questions I see in there. Am I missing anything else, Russ? I think I got everything.
Well, that's everything that I had on my agenda.
Okay. Very cool. Thanks, Dave, for joining today. I always love to have your team on because yeah, people find you real useful when they use you. So again, if you want to talk to your solutions architect, hit us up, email us, let us know, and we'll get you connected up. If no other questions exist, we will give you back 8 minutes in your day, and yeah, that'll wrap it up for this month. We will talk to you. I think we'll have one in November. Looks like right now we're looking at November 15th. So hopefully we'll have some more news to share on new features and stuff. And then we will talk to you then. In the meantime, mspblumira.com. Hit us up on MSP Geek. We're always there hanging out. So yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Oh, also, of course, if you guys are a ConnectWise partner, going to ConnectWise IT Nation next month, come see us. We will be in the expo hall. So, all right, cool. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Blake, Russ, Dave. Thank you all. Yeah, we'll talk to everyone later.